On today's Newsmakers, a Skillet Christmas drama, Erika Kirk and chaos in Syria, that and more coming up. Welcome to Newsmakers, a show where we go behind the headlines each and every week to bring you interviews with your favorite pastors, entertainers, politicians, and other notable news figures. First on today's show, CBN's Raj Nair and I break down a recent conversation between Megyn Kelly and Charlie Kirk's widow, Erika Kirk. Now, Kelly asked Kirk an important question about anger at God after Charlie's killing, and her response was powerful. Let's watch Raj and I break it down.
The enemy would love for me to be angry. He would love it. He would love it. Because it would distract me from building what Charlie entrusted to me, raising our babies, turning point, being there for the team, being there for what the future holds. And if I had any amount of anger in my heart and spirit, the Lord would not be able to use me. And every single day, just how Charlie did, stood on stage, he would say, "Here I am, Lord, use me." And if I had that anger in my heart, that foothold from the enemy, he wouldn't be able to.
So, Raj, that is a really interesting response about the enemy loving her being angry if she were to be angry, about not being able to be used by God if she had anger in her heart. What was your reaction to that?
Well, I think at the end of the day, she's trying to follow the example of Yeshua, of Jesus, right? When Jesus was on the cross, literally being crucified, being tortured, being executed, and the worst form of capital punishment ever devised by human beings. What did our example do? Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they're doing. Earlier, Luke 6, I love this. I know it's hard. It's so hard, really. It's so hard to live this out. But this is what Jesus, God himself, says to us. But to you who are listening, I say, this is our instructions. I can't escape this. Here it is. Ready? Love your enemies. Do good to those who hate you. Bless those who curse you. Pray for those who mistreat you. To me, what she's attempting to do, and obviously she's going to fail at it. We're all going to fail at it. She's trying to actually follow the prescription that Jesus laid out for us to love our enemies. Because anger, you can go to the Beatitudes. Anger, that's the same. Hate leads to violence. It's all about the disposition, the positioning of our hearts. So kudos to her for actually trying. And again, none of us are perfect, but at least aiming for putting our hearts towards the position that Jesus exemplified and then also taught verbally, that this is what we're supposed to be aiming for. We're going to fail. We need grace. But again, she's trying to live out her faith. And for that, I applaud her.
Yeah, well, and I'll say too, you look at what she's saying there, this idea of having anger in our hearts. A lot of people, unforgiveness is the thing that holds them back from other people, but really from the Lord, right? That's why Jesus sets this example. We've been forgiven, so the measure is going to be held against us based on how we forgive others, which is very terrifying and very convicting. But she talked about her husband too, obviously, from that clip, what Charlie did standing on a stage and saying, "Here I am, Lord, use me." And she really, again, kept repeating, if she had that anger in her heart, that it would be a foothold from the enemy, that God would not be able to use her in the way she wants to be used. So there's a couple of things going on there. And I think it's really powerful and such a great example that not only is she following the most important thing, obviously, is following what Jesus is calling her to, but that recognition of being held back. And it makes me think, where are the areas in our lives that we're held back by unforgiveness and by anger, which is rooted many times in that unforgiveness? I think of Acts 7, when Stephen was literally being stoned to death. And it's very similar to the example, obviously, that Jesus gave. That's why Stephen was behaving in this way. But while they were stoning him, I'm reading it right now, verse 59 to 60, Stephen prayed, Lord Jesus, receive my spirit. Then he fell on his knees and cried out, Lord, do not hold this sin against them. When he had said this, he fell asleep. Like, do not hold this sin against them as he's being stoned by maniacs. I mean, think about that. And it's, you think about what happened to Charlie Kirk and how she's reacting. And as you said, to your point, she's precisely doing exactly what we see in Scripture.
Well, one of my favorite quotes, I'm gonna read it in my mind slowly because it's so beautiful. To forgive is to set a prisoner free, and then to realize that prisoner was you. And man, if what would this world look like? Again, it's so not just countercultural, counterhuman. It's like what do you mean forgive? What do you mean let go? What do you mean love your enemy? It's so otherworldly. But what would the world look like? And that doesn't mean don't prepare yourself, put down all your defenses and build no walls, but like it means to forgive because you have been forgiven. And what will the world look like? And again, bitterness is it's an easy itch to just like let yourself scratch. But what would it look like if we took it off and then honestly let God do the healing work? Because at the end of the day, the one that's suffering from unforgiveness is the person that's holding on to it. So yeah, Billy, I'll give you the last word. But to me, and it's such an easy thing to preach, but forgiveness, I think, could really change the world. And kudos to Erika Kirk for exemplifying it.
Well, and I'll say this, as the holiday season is upon us and Thanksgiving, we think about gratitude. I think gratitude goes hand in hand with forgiveness many times and being grateful for what we have. So I would encourage everyone, myself included, and you, Raj, to be praying about and thinking about where are the areas where maybe we're giving the enemy a foothold because we're not forgiving, where maybe we're making a decision to hold something against someone. And in doing that, it doesn't mean you have to pretend these things didn't happen. It doesn't mean you need to be best friends with every person, but you don't want to be controlled by that anger and that hatred. And so I'd encourage all of us to be praying about this holiday weekend and thinking about what those areas are in our own lives. Continue to pray for Erika Kirk and the entire Turning Point USA team. We'll be right back in just a moment with more Newsmakers. Welcome back to Newsmakers. Next up, Skillet's John Cooper joins me to explain the recent controversy over the band's rendition of O Come, Emmanuel. Let's welcome him here to the show to break it all down.
Well, John, it's always good to connect with you, and you've got a new Christmas song out. I love that Skillet is in the Christmas mix. It's O Come, Emmanuel. This obviously is a well-known Christmas song, and you guys put out a really fascinating version of this. Let's start. We'll get into the controversy in a minute, which I can't believe there's even a controversy. But what made you say, "Hey, like we want to do a Christmas song"?
Well, thanks, Billy. It's good to chat with you again. I appreciate it. It's really funny. About a year ago, some of our fans started saying, "When are you going to do a Christmas song?" Or maybe it was more. And we started thinking, maybe we should. I don't know. Can Skillet do that? I don't know. And about probably in January, we had just said, you know what, let's do it. And we'd even talked about maybe doing multiple songs, like an EP or something. It just kind of, and then we just got really busy. It didn't happen. And at some point I noticed Corey, my wife, Corey, who's our guitar player and producer, she was in the studio working and I could always see her with her headphones. I'm like, she's cooking something. I have no idea what she's doing. And finally she's like, all right, I got this idea for O Come, Emmanuel. And she showed it to me. And I was like, I love it. I just absolutely loved it. So it was something we were talking about doing as a bigger project anyway. But then it just kind of became this one song. And then we said, let's do a Skillet version and we'll make it hopefully epic and big, make it sound like us. And I think our fans will probably like it. And the reception for the song has been absolutely overwhelming. People seem to really love it.
No, I appreciate that explanation too, because what's interesting, most people, your fans, have really loved the song. It got a huge reception immediately. You then had some people on the internet, one person calling it demonic, one person, what was your reaction to some of those responses from people calling it ungodly, unholy, citing scripture against it? Did you anticipate that? And what was your reaction once you started to see it?
Well, yeah, it's really interesting, Billy. And just so people listening understand, it wasn't like, oh, we got a random comment from like a fan or a rando on the internet. I mean, there was some blue checks, you know.
Yeah.
There was people that have followings that are into biblical theology. So it was sort of a shock. I guess what I would say is, all right, I should not be shocked that some people are going to take issue with it because it is really loud. I get it. Some people are going to be like, I don't understand. I guess why I was so surprised, maybe I should answer like this. Yes, I was shocked. Maybe I shouldn't have been. But the reason I was shocked is because Skillet has been doing loud music for almost 30 years. So
right. When I said you put your spin on it, that's what I meant. I mean, like, it's how you make music, right?
Yeah, I kind of like, this is what we do. Why is it really surprising? So I guess for me, I was like, do they not know who Skillet is? We always make loud music. And I would have thought those people would have already hated Skillet enough to not say anything. It just didn't cross my mind. Here's the funny thing, Billy. Again, especially if there's younger people watching, they may not be aware of this, but this was a huge debate, Christian rock music in the 1980s, 1990s. It was a massive debate. If you go back and listen to any interviews with Amy Grant, even Michael W. Smith, who wasn't even, not even really rock, Petra, Stryper. If you go back and interview DeGarmo and Key and all these classic Christian bands, they will tell you every single show they played, they had people outside Christians picketing their shows, saying that it was from the devil, it was satanic, it was chaotic. They were playing the devil's music. They were leading people to hell. It was a huge deal in the 80s, and I grew up during that time. So to my mind, this was already done with. This wasn't a thing that people really took issue with, but they do. And so if you ask me how I handle it, the truth is I am extremely gracious towards people like this. My response was like, hey, I think you're brothers in Christ. I know you're upset. Wish you weren't. Nothing I can do. I think the reason I'm so gracious about this, more than other things perhaps, is because I grew up in a family who believed this way. My parents really believed that rock and roll was evil and demonic. My mom died when I was 15. She was a fantastic Christian woman, but she died truly believing that rock and roll was like one of the worst things that Satan ever did on this planet. And so I have a lot of compassion. I believe that these people online that are hating on us, I don't think they have hateful hearts. I think they truly believe it's evil and they're trying to protect people from wickedness. And I wish that they could see how much God uses music to change people's lives. I wish that they had a better acknowledgement. I don't think their biblical argument is very good. The truth is they don't really have a biblical argument other than disorder is from Satan and this is disorderly. Well, I mean, that's just a matter of, that's a subjective opinion that you might not like this style of music. But I can guarantee you those people, if you went to other parts of the world and heard the kind of music that they played in their own particular cultures, you probably wouldn't understand it. You probably would be like, that's a really weird sounding thing. I don't know if that's good or not. It's just because it's different. And so I wish they saw how much God uses this music to change people. But it's funny, if you go on Skillet's comments on the page, you will see literally, I'm not exaggerating, thousands of comments, all saying similar things. This song speaks to me because my dad died from cancer this year, and I just wanted to scream. And that's what this song speaks of. I want to scream, but I also know that God is with me and he's going to protect me. He's going to give me peace through the hardship, but sometimes you just want to scream. I think for the most part, people get it.
Well, I love that, John. As always, appreciate you taking the time, breaking this down and explaining it, because I think you've given really good explanations for people who might be on the detractor side to ponder on this. Appreciate your time as always.
Oh, it's great to chat with you, brother.
If you want to hear Skillet's version of O Come, Emmanuel, you can do that wherever you stream music. We'll be right back in just a moment with more Newsmakers. Welcome back to Newsmakers on the CBN News Channel. For our final segment, Matthew Faraci, a representative for the National Association of Christian Lawmakers, is joining us to talk about the chaos unfolding inside of Syria and why Christians need to pay attention to the persecution happening there. With no further ado, here is Matthew Faraci. I want to talk about this letter. There is a letter that you are a part of and multiple Christian leaders have signed on to. Really, this was put out there before President Trump's meeting with Syrian President al-Shara. But talk about this letter. How was it formed and what is the purpose of it?
Well, Billy, Trump is, I think, you're going to have to check me here, but he's the first president that I can think of in modern times, maybe Reagan, that made religious freedom an urgent national priority with his amazing statement about Nigeria recently, right? And he said, like, it's part of the Trump doctrine is, I was looking at the quote, that that the United States is committed not only to protecting Christians in Syria, but around the world in other countries where Christian persecution is a problem. So with that backdrop, a bunch of Christian leaders found out, and this is a group, I think you know, Billy, Dede Logson, who runs Save the Persecuted Christians. And so I was talking to Dede, and Dede said, look, if we're going to take this Trump doctrine and extend it, shouldn't it extend to Syria, where they're slaughtering Christians and Druze? Back in July, they started the Jelani's forces started an October 7th style attack in a southern city in Syria called Sweda. They took a Baptist pastor, dragged him out of his house, killed him and 20 members of his family. They raped little girls. They took grandparents and threw them off buildings with their grandbabies. They took an old man in his wheelchair and set him on fire. They ripped a guy's heart out and ate it in front of him. This is gruesome stuff that you ask yourself, Billy, how can one human being do this to another human being? Then they realized, okay, we're not going to kill 750,000 people this way. It's going to take a lot of time. So they switched their strategy to a siege. And there is currently, right now, as we speak, a siege around the city of Sweda, 700 to 750,000 people. They're being deprived of food, water, and basic medical supplies. In fact, the daily water allotment, I was just told, is less than the United Nations level for starvation. So with that whole backdrop, Billy, these faith leaders, who, as you know, probably more than anybody, are among the biggest names in the faith community. They all said to the president, look, you've committed to this thing in Nigeria and around the world. Syria falls under that. Can you please tell President Shara, knock it off?
Well, I mean, you have a situation where you have Druze, Christians, Alawites, others whoever is not essentially in the majority or is not in an extremist camp being
Correct.
targeted by these people in Syria. And now you have somebody heading the government. Just if people don't know, al-Shara, talk a little bit about his background, because I think it helps people understand this is a person who comes from extremism, does he not?
Yeah. This is a former al-Qaeda fighter. He fought Americans in Mosul during the Iraq War. He was the commander of the area. He is responsible, therefore, for the deaths of thousands of American soldiers and also 5 U.S. diplomats. So this is as the president might say, this is a tough guy with a rough background. Absolutely. Then, of course, he went to Syria, joined another terrorist group, and that terrorist group ended up overthrowing Assad. So he's president of Syria basically because he's king of the hill. Now, Billy, I am not one of those people, pie in the sky people, that's going to tell you that we expect in the Middle East to have democracy, to have the standards that we have in Western norms. That's how it goes, right? One guy kills another guy, becomes the dictator. So that's the question. And I think for the Trump administration, strategically, they're asking themselves, look, we've got a new thug in charge. Is he going to be Russia's thug? Is he going to be China's thug? Or is he going to be America's thug? And I understand that. I understand that the Trump foreign policy is let's make realistic decisions. But then the Trump foreign policy can also say, hey, since you need us so badly, and since we're helping you rebuild your country, you're going to have to do certain things that we want you to do. And one of those things is not killing people that are not Muslim.
So, Talk about this humanitarian corridor. What are some of the solutions here, right? The letter is making a call to the president to take this seriously. From what we're hearing, he reportedly did bring this up with al-Shura. What else do we want to see happen here?
Very specifically, Billy, there needs that right now there is I'm doing this air quotes specifically, there is a humanitarian corridor from Damascus to Sweda. Now, who controls that corridor? Al-Shura. So what that means is that they can use that corridor as they're using it for leverage. Would you like medical treatment? You need to convert to Islam. Would you like food? You need to accept our authority over you, et cetera, et cetera. So what the faith leaders are asking for is a humanitarian corridor, specifically from Hadar, which is on the near Israel, near the Golan Heights area, from Hadar to Sweda. And that would allow humanitarian aid to actually flow in unmolested by terrorist forces or by al-Shura's forces, and it would allow these people to be saved. And remember, Billy, we're heading into winter. So we already have a horrible humanitarian crisis. People don't have food. The hospitals have been knocked out. The terrorists blew up the wells, the water wells. There's apparently barely intermittent electricity. Now you're heading into winter, and you're going to see a lot more problems heading into winter. So they're asking the president, can you please get that corridor opened so aid can flow freely into Sweda, into that area?
Well, Matthew Faraci, appreciate you taking the time, as always, and the work that you're doing to help persecuted minorities in Syria and beyond. Appreciate your time today.
Billy, I'm grateful to you for shining a flashlight on this, because sunlight is the best antidote to this.
Please continue to pray for Syria's leaders to do the right thing and for minority groups who are under duress there. We'll be right back in just a moment with more Newsmakers. That's all for Newsmakers. Thank you for watching, and be sure to head on over to the CBN News YouTube channel for the full interviews you saw on today's episode. Also, be sure to check out our new documentary investigating the supernatural miracles. We traveled across the country documenting some of the most incredible miracle claims. You can watch that at cbn.com/supernatural, and stay tuned for a new film coming in that series. It's called Investigating the Supernatural Angels and Demons, premiering next year. We'll be back next week with another episode of the show. We'll see you then.